Look on your formula sheet and see if this is a formula right here. Check your formula sheet, see if that's a formula. Cosecant squared minus cotangent squared equals what? 1. So watch how easy this problem is going to be. 1/4 times 1 plus 6.75. Those are just numbers now, so put them in your calculator. Answer 7. So,
where's the formula at?
show her. Show her, Caleb. Did you find that formula? Cosecant squared minus cotangent squared.
It's
Right.
Alright.
All right, so Leanna, that's where we're looking first on every problem. Okay? Everybody ready for the second one? All right, so again, look at your formula sheet. If you've got anything squared, Leanna, and a 1, it's probably going to be a formula.
Wait, what was the answer for number 1? 7. I got 8 in my calculator. Did you add?
You didn't put it in your calculator, right? 1/4 times 1 plus 6.75.
Okay, we can go now.
All right. All right, so again, we are looking to see on our formula sheet what matches up with 1 minus cosine squared. Sine squared. So we got sine squared on the bottom. Everybody understand? Now, this one's really easy also. Look, on top we got sine x and cosine x. On the bottom, if we've got sine squared, remember that means you've got 2 sines, right? So what cancels out? 1 sine on the top and 1 sine on the bottom. My answer is cosine over sine, which can change into cotangent. Now, why do we have to change it? Because we're trying to simplify these down to where it's one word, one trig function, or either a number. So when you get it simplified down to one word, you are good.
How does it change to cotangent? Cancel out.
All right, first thing we're going to do on number 3, I'm going to go through and change everything, all right? So sine, I don't want to change sine, I'm just going to write it over 1. Secant is 1 over cosine. Cotangent is, what's cotangent? That's cosine over sine. All right, so now we just go through and see what cancels out. This sine will cancel this sine. As long as one's on top, one's on bottom, you cancel. Cosines cancel. Everything canceled, so my answer is 1 on that one.
You think we could put 1 on every answer and at least make it 7?
Nope. All right, 4 and 5 are pretty similar. All right, let's do 4. All right, so Leanna, first thing we're going to do is check and see if we can use those Pythagorean identity formulas. Secant squared x minus 1. Find it on your sheet. Tell me what it equals.
Wait, I got a question first.
Go ahead.
Why can't you just go ahead and cancel them out?
Good question. Why can't we cancel that secant with that secant? Somebody tell me. If you got a plus or minus, you can't break it up into parts and just cancel half of it. It's one whole number. Good question.
Tangent squared?
Yeah.
All right, so y'all say this changes into tangent squared.
Which is squared.
Now we use those top formulas, Leanna, and we change everything into sine and cosine. So here's something I need to show you. On your top, Leanna, it's got tangent x is sine over cosine, right? So that means if it's tangent squared, it'll just change to sine squared over cosine squared. You got to make that change on your own. So the top is going to be sine squared over cosine squared. The bottom, what does secant squared change into, Jacob? Secant is what? 1 over cosine, so that's 1 over cosine squared. All right, so first step, make your changes first. Question now.
You lost me.
Hadn't even really got going. Question.
Okay, so when you do the top of it.
Yep.
The tops.
All right, I had tangent squared on top.
Just kidding, just kidding.
All right, Matthew, question.
You lost me at the tangent.
Okay.
Tangent squared x.
You see how we got tangent squared on top? Now, we're going to use your formula sheet, and we're going to change everything into sine and cosine. So look, at the top of your formula sheet, it tells you tangent is sine over cosine. You agree? So if it's tangent squared, then it's got to be sine squared over cosine squared. That's what I did. All right, so now the last thing we're going to do, guys, on most of these problems is keep, change, flip. Keep the top, flip the bottom. All right, what cancels out now? You can always cancel stuff out, Leanna, if you have multiply in between. So now cosines cancel. We agree?
Wait.
Go ahead. I took the bottom. I did keep, change, flip. I flipped it up top. Okay? Cosines cancel out. The only thing I got left is sine squared. We're good. My answer is sine squared. We're just trying to get it simplified down to one word, one trig function.
Oh, so you moved the cosine, or 1 over cosine squared on top.
Yep. All right, so Brianna, look on your formula sheet for me. What does 1 plus tangent squared change into? All right, so we're changing this to secant squared. Everybody's good there. Now we got to change them both because you want everything to be sine and cosine. So what does secant squared change into? Very good. 1 over cosine squared. And what does tangent squared change into? Sine squared over cosine squared. So, just like on the last problem, we now just want to do keep, change, flip, and we should be done. Flip the bottom. This is what I've got. All right, look at it. Everybody's good with me flipping the bottom. What cancels out? Cosine squares cancel, right? So now look, we do have a 1 left on top. We do have a sine squared on the bottom. Now, can we change that into one word? What does 1 over sine equal? Cosecant, so this would be cosecant squared. So 4 and 5 are very similar problems, and you will have one like that on the test, because I think that's definitely something we can do.
Go over that last part again.
All right, do you understand that the cosines canceled out?
Yeah. And then
All right, so look, I had a 1 left on top.
Yeah.
I had a sine squared left on bottom. Now we're trying to turn our answers into one word. So if you look at the top, it says 1 over sine equals cosecant, which means 1 over sine squared equals cosecant squared. All right, let's go to 6. Okay. Jacob had a very good point on this one. On your formula sheet, it says cosecant squared minus cotangent squared equals 1. Is that right? Does it say that? Yep. It's at the very bottom right-hand corner on those Pythagoreans. So, does this one also equal 1? No. You see how it's got to be squared. Both of them have to be squared for it to equal 1. So this one does not equal 1. I can't do that by the formula sheet. All right, but Jacob had a good question on that. So what we're going to have to do, we're going to have to full this one out.
Oh my goodness.
So we're going to go through, Leanna, and we're going to change everything into sines and cosines. So this one stays 1 plus cosine x. You don't want to change that one. It's already cosine. Don't change it. Leave it. All right, but I do want to change these other two because they're not sine or cosine. So cosecant changes to, okay, I got it outsmarted today. I saved it ahead of time.
You saved it.
I did. Let's see if I remember how to bring it up now.
I don't think you can, so I think that means.
Whatever, I got it. I think it's here, here, uh-huh.
Good job, Coach.
Yep. Took me all year to figure this out.
Hey, but you got it now.
Right,
Don't
so
forget
now-
it over the sun.
Which number we on?
6.
Ready to go. All right, so I got to go back and change these. So I got 1 plus cosine x. I got 1 over sine minus cosine over sine. All right, I'm going to stop. All I've done so far is I just changed everything into sine and cosine using my top formulas. Okay? All right, we can go? All right. All right, Matthew says wait.
Good.
All right, so look, a couple different ways you could do this one. We could do a common denominator over here. That would be a lot of work. We're going to try to stay away from that whenever we can. We're going to FOIL this out. What do I get when I times these two right here? 1 times anything, guys, 1 times 1 over sine is just going to be 1 over sine.
But they won't make it cosine x over sin x?
1 times 1 on top gives me 1 over sine.
Oh, okay. Then I see.
Now look, on the next one is what you're talking about, Matthew. 1 times cosine just gives me cosine over sine. Write it down. We're going to have a lot of FOIL method problems on the test. You might as well get used to doing them. All right, look, now we're going to times these two right here. So I'm going to have cosine times 1 on top. That's going to give me cosine x over sine x. And last, we're going to have cosine times cosine, which is cosine squared on top over sine x. All right, so, Leanna, you with me? So far, every FOIL method problem we've had so far, the middle has canceled out. Let's check again and see if the middle cancels out. Plus cosine over sine, yep, it happens again. Now, I don't know if we can say that's going to be that way the rest of the week, but so far, every FOIL method problem we've had, the middle has canceled. All right, so, question about it canceling. I got a plus cosine over sine and a minus cosine over sine. They're going to cancel.
I'm talking about the next part.
Now, the next part, we got 1 over sine x minus cosine squared over sine x. All right, what we have to do here is find a common denominator. Anytime you have a plus and a minus in between your fractions, you're going to have to find a common denominator. Now, we got lucky. These already have the same thing on the bottom, don't they? So we don't have to go through all the common denominator steps. All we have to do is bring down sine x on the bottom and combine the top. 1 minus cosine squared. All right, we got one more step and we'll be done. All right, everybody good how it went from here to here? All right, last step. Matthew, 1 minus cosine squared looks like a formula to me. Anytime you got a 1, that's a
Sine squared.
try sine squared. So put sine squared on top, 1 sine on the bottom. All right, what do we do from here? I can cancel out 1 sine on the bottom and 1 sine on the top. I'm still left with 1 sine on the top. So my answer is sine x on that. All right, Matthew, what do we do first?
Bring sine x down.
Yeah, let's change everything into sine and cosine. So we'll just keep the sine x. Cosecant I can change to 1 over sine, and we'll leave that sign, okay? So my first step, I just changed everything out. That's what you're doing first. I didn't have a x squared formula I could use, so I just switched everything out. Now, I would just distribute.
Yeah. But you couldn't get, no, because of subtraction.
Oh, good call. So, why can't I?
The subtraction.
Yeah, let's make sure Leanna sees that. You see, I can't cross out that sign and that sign because it's got subtraction.
But the
If-
fraction would be a 1, right?
If it had a multiply symbol, I could cancel them out. So, when I times these two, that sign will cancel out that sign, you get 1. When I times these two, sine times sine is sine squared. Everybody good? What's next?
Turns into cosine.
Turns into cosine squared and we're done. Okay, so that one was pretty easy. I can give you that.
Not for that.
And by Friday, we should be able to do that.
Maybe.
All right, let's go to 9. No, 7. We skipped 7. Let's go to 7.
There is a cosine. Oh, that's never mind.
All right, Leanna, can I cancel out these 2 sines and these 2 cosines?
No.
No, because it's not multiplication. That's the only time you cancel anything out. So, we're going to have to find a common denominator. It's the only way we can do it when there's a plus sign or a minus sign in between. Now, our common denominator, we always say use one of everything on the bottom, right? So, we got to write sine x and cosine x on the bottom. You're going to also have to write it above each fraction so we can see what cancels out. All right, so write that down. So look, this sign will cancel this sign. Cosine times cosine is cosine squared. Good?
Yeah, I got all that.
Matthew, what cancels on the right fraction?
Cosine.
What do I bring down?
Just sine squared.
Good. All right, can everybody get to that point?
Wait, why do you have the sin x, cosine x thing when they cancel out?
Okay. Last week, we didn't have to put them on the bottom because we had an equal sign on the midterm, and last month when we did common denominators, we don't have an equal sign now, so you have to keep it a fraction. And your common denominator now goes on the bottom. So this is fairly new. Okay? All right, so this is a formula. What's cosine squared plus sine squared turn into? So now we've got 1 on top, we've got sine x on the bottom, and cosine x on the bottom. Okay, that's your answer. Now, I would not give you this problem on the test because I want all of your problems to end in one word for an answer. One trig function. This is not one word, so I would not make you do this. We could change it into something else, but there's no need to. I'm not going to make y'all do this one, so it's good you can do it now.
This is not good.
This is good, Lynn. This is good stuff right here.
We're not gonna use this, like, ever.
We're going to use it next week on the test.
Not even
Other than that,
engineers.
no, it ain't.
This is reasoning. This is great.
I'm
So
not
let's go to
gonna
number
use
10.
it. It's not.
All right, 10 looks like an easy one. See if y'all can do it.
Why are we doing 9?
All right, Harley, what does secant change into right here?
But that stupid minus sign is keeping us from doing stuff.
Oh, God. You tell them.
All right, so this is what we got when we changed everything out, right?
Yeah.
All right, like Matthew says, stupid minus signs messing us up.
Every time.
So we're going to multiply first. Don't we have to multiply before we add or subtract anyway?
Yeah.
So now I'm going to bring down the 1 over cosine. We'll use it later. What is sine times sine going to give us on top? Good. All right, so Matthew, we had to save the minus sign anyway because we had to multiply before we add or subtract. So now we're to here. All right, now we deal with the minus sign. So we got to find a common denominator.
It's already there.
It's already there, which means put it on the bottom. And what goes on the top? Just combine the top, so it's 1 minus sine squared. All right, talk to me. What's next?
It'll be cosine squared.
Good. The top is now cosine squared on top and cosine on bottom. What's my answer? Cosine. My answer. I could cancel 1 on the bottom with 1 on top, and I'm left with only 1 cosine on top. Good deal. Okay, that one was a little bit of a challenge. I would not say that's an easy problem. That's like a medium problem. But I'm definitely going to give y'all some of those on the test.
Can we not talk about the test?
Let's keep talking about it. Let's go to 9. All right, going to 9. Go through first. Change everything you can change. Do that first. All right, so this changes to 1 over cosine. And that's cosine over 1 minus secant 1 over cosine. That's cosine over 1. All right, got something to show you here. We got to multiply secant and cosine together, right? Matthew, let's notice secant and cosine are inverses of each other, which means they're opposites of each other, right? Anytime you got to multiply the ones that are opposites of each other, it's going to give you 1. Because look, doesn't that cosine cancel that cosine?
Yeah.
So in the future, know that trick, and it'll save you some work. So if you ever have to multiply tangent and cotangent, it's going to be 1. All right, so all this on the right side becomes 1. Now, Matthew, what do you think about the left side right here?
Would you just do keep these?
Good. Do keep change flip, and you're on the right track to finish it up. Go. I don't think so, but keep change flip is the right. All right, you ready? This flips to 1 over cosine 2. Now look, nothing cancels out, does it? So what I've got is 1 on top, cosine squared on the bottom, minus 1. Now can I change 1 over cosine squared into anything? I can change that to secant squared, so I'm going to erase it. I now have secant squared minus 1, which is probably a formula.
Tangent squared.
Answer is tangent squared.
This just confused me. You got, how did you,
Go ahead,
why
Matthew.
did you put the keep change flip? Like, why did you have it multiple?
I had cosine over 1 on the bottom, so I flipped it. And when I flipped it, nothing's going to cancel. So 1 times 1 gave me 1 on top. Cosine times cosine gave me cosine squared on bottom. And then we changed 1 over cosine squared to secant squared. And then we knew that was a formula. All right, we'll do these last 4, then we'll take a quick break. All right, Leanna, what is different about the last 4? They now have a what in the problem?
An equal sign.
Good, now we got an equal sign. So, the instructions say to verify each identity, which means we've got to show that the left side is equal to the right side. We've got to show it's the same number on both sides, or same trig function. So normally, Leanna, if you'll just start working on both sides, they'll kind of come together. For example, look at 11. I notice I got 1 minus cosine squared. That should be a formula. Check your sheet, see what that equals.
Sine squared.
All right, so we got sine squared on the right. So I'm going to guess the right's done. We've got it down to 1 word. It's done. So now let's work on the left. All right, Matthew, what can I change tangent squared into?
Secant squared x minus 1.
Let's don't go backwards. You don't want to change it and make it longer or more words. So tangent, use your top formulas, Matthew. Tangent is sine over cosine.
Yeah.
So I'm going to change that to sine squared over cosine squared. All right, and so about now, y'all should see what's going to happen. What's going to cancel now?
Cosine squared.
So look, I got sine squared left on the right. On the left, I bring down my sine squared that I had on the right. I have shown that they're equal, so I can stop. When you show the left side is equal to the right side, you can stop. All right, let's go to 14. It looks like a similar type problem.
What are we doing?
14.
It's the same.
All right, now, one thing on 14, I'd already switched it. It starts out with 1 over secant squared, is that right?
Colonel Chapman's homeroom, please
Oh,
report
sorry.
to first hall. Colonel Chapman's homeroom, please report to first hall.
Yeah, I was looking at the wrong problem. All right, so we're on 14, we still got cosine squared. Okay, so the right side is already simplified to 1 word. Let's just work on the left side. So you guys go through, change what you can change. All right, so Harley, I'm going to change cosecant into 1 over sine, right? And I'll leave that one. I don't want to change it. It's already sine. So now let's just distribute, and everything should work out. So if I times sine times 1, that's going to give me sine x on top and sine x on bottom. Well, that cancels out to just 1. All right, when I times sine, I get sine squared. All right, Jacob, what does 1 minus sine squared turn into?
Cosine squared.
So now I got cosine squared on the left, and I got cosine squared on the right. Straighten out with a simple formula change, yeah. This 1 over secant squared, I can change that and make it 1 word. I can make it just cosine squared. So I would do that. Anytime you can turn it into just 1 word, it's better. Okay, so we've got to FOIL out the left side, right? Now, what I said about FOIL a minute ago, every time we've had FOIL so far, the middle's canceled out. Now, I'm going to assume it's going to cancel out here also. I'm going to go ahead and do it, though. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times a minus sine x, that's just minus sine x. I got a plus sine x. Sine times sine is sine squared. All right, does the middle, in fact, cancel out again? Yep. So again, Matthew, from now on, I just want us to memorize what it's going to be. We know the middle is going to cancel out. So if you want to do a shortcut, all you have to do is 1 times 1 is 1, bring it down. And sine times sine is sine squared. So from now on, let's just do that shortcut. Don't even worry about the middle. It's going to cancel. So look, I've got 1 minus sine squared left on the left. That changes into cosine squared. So we've got cosine squared on the right, cosine squared on the left. On the left side and a fraction on the right side, the easiest way to do this one is just going to be cross multiply. Okay? So, let's go this way first. I got to multiply, just watch me on this step. I got to multiply secant x plus 1 with secant x minus 1. Well, hey, that's going to be a FOIL method, so we should know what it's going to be. Thank you. It's going to be secant squared minus 1. Do I need to explain that? So we did a shortcut. We didn't work it out. We just knew what it was going to be ahead of time, because every time we have a FOIL method problem, the middle cancels. Okay. All right, now how about going the other way? I got to multiply sine squared times secant squared. Okay, secant squared I know is 1 over cosine squared times sine squared. Does anything cancel out right here? No. So let's just times them straight across. 1 times sine squared, I got sine squared on top, and I got cosine squared on the bottom. All right, Matthew says that equals tangent squared. What else do y'all see? This is a formula. It also equals tangent squared. So you're done. Y'all take a bathroom break. We're getting better.